Imagine finding your perfect dream home, falling in love with it, and then you discover you don't have enough money to buy it. Unfortunately, this happens to people once they get the house buying bug. They go out, they see real estate signs, they find the perfect house, and then once they get further down the road and start to decide to make an offer, they discuss with their loan officer what their plan is, and they find out they don't make enough money. Today, we're going to talk about how you can avoid that problem. Welcome back. I'm Steve Ramsey, your friendly neighborhood loan officer, and we're here today to talk about deciding and determining how much house you can afford. This is a really important lesson because, as we said in the introduction, sometimes you end up looking at houses you can't afford and you have heartbreak. But in a positive light, sometimes you aren't looking at houses that are nice enough. And that can also be discouraging because you discover all the work that needs to be done. So today we're going to look at the 3 different ways to help determine how much house you can afford. First is your income and monthly budget. One of the first guides in determining how much you can afford for a house payment is to consider how much you pay for rent right now. That's a good starting point. But generally, what we want to look at is that your monthly payment for your house, which would include your principal, your interest, your taxes, and your insurance, and if you have an HOA fee, that would be included. That amount should be no more than about 28 to 30% of your gross monthly income. So that's pre-tax income. So if you look at how much money you make before taxes each month and multiply that by 0.3, that'll give you an idea of how much your house payment should be. So if you make $5,000 a month, your mortgage should not exceed more than about $1,500 a month. Now, this can vary a lot depending on circumstances. Some people have more day-to-day type expenses. Some people have more expensive cell phone plans. Some people's cars break down more often. Some people spend more time eating out or more money going to the movies. So everyone's a little bit different. But use that 30% as a general guide. Number 2, debts and credit obligations. Whenever we're trying to decide how much money you can afford for a house, you have to first look at how much money you already owe other people, other creditors. Do you have car loans? Do you have student loans? Do you have credit cards? All of these factor into what's called the debt to income ratio. Lenders will vary depending on their program, and depending on the loan type, it will vary. But generally, you want your DTI, your debt to income, to be 43% or less. Now that also includes that house payment we were just talking about. So take the house payment you just figured in step 1, and then add however much you have for your current debts, whether it's your monthly student loan payment or your monthly car payment, or maybe you have a credit card balance, but you paid $300 a month. Add that all together, and that should be no more than 43% of your gross pre-tax monthly income. And number 3, the down payment and loan options. Your down payment and loan options actually will affect greatly how much house you can afford. Different loan programs will have different percentages that they use. We've been talking about percentages in step 1 and step 2. Well, just know that none of those are actually set in stone usually. There are always adjustments people can make, and we can always do what's called a manual underwrite to address certain unusual circumstances. But the amount of money that you put for down payment can greatly affect what kind of house you can afford. If you're putting 3% down, it's very different than if you're putting 10% or 20% down. To give you an example, FHA, which is one type of loan product, will allow a really low credit score if you put 10% down. But if you're only putting 3% down, they're going to require your credit score to be a lot more. And also that DTI ratio is going to be different as well. So the amount of money that you can put down in the particular program you go with, whether it's FHA or VA or a conventional loan product, All of those will affect how much house you can afford. I know talking about budgets and money and debt to income is not nearly as exciting as going on Zillow and looking at really nice houses, but it really is an important first step so that you don't have your expectations too high and then your hopes are dashed when you realize you can't afford that beautiful new house. So the first step, go through all these things that we talked about and see roughly how much house you can afford, and then go to Zillow, put in those price parameters in your filters, and that'll give you a better idea of the type of house you can afford. One of the best ways and the easiest ways to find out how much house you can afford is to go to my website, steveramseyloans.com, and go up to the top and choose Loan Tools. And in there, you'll find calculators that you can put in your numbers and find out roughly how much house you can afford. And then all these steps we were talking about will kind of instantly be filled in on those numbers. And it'll show you these are the numbers you need to use when you start driving around town, looking on Zillow, realtor.com, talking to an agent. This will give you a good starting point to know where to begin. Well, now that you know how much you can comfortably afford, we're going to move on in the next lesson to it's actually a pretty exciting step, but we're going to start talking about the different types of loan programs that are out there in order to see which might be a best fit for you and to show you that there's different options for different people in different circumstances. So hope to see you there.